You're right here in the home of gravity, and this is Episode 4. Do you believe that NASA could be dishonest about some features of the Earth? Or should we say that there could be practical errors in observation and experimentation by NASA? Well, we are about to discover the answer. The subject of this episode is gravity. Is the literal description of gravity a force, a curvature, or something else? The truth they never disclose to you is that gravity's precise definition is not a force or a curvature. It is feasible that we are on the brink of discovering the answer by the end of this episode. The truth about pi was disclosed in Episode 1. The truth about the physical constants was disclosed to be directly related to the pi value in Episode 3. Using the physical constants, the God equation was explained in Episode 3. Now, there is a connection between these episodes, and they will assist in the identification of the genuine nature of gravity. We should conduct an analysis. Is there a reason why planets appear to float in outer space? And within or inside these masses, objects do not float, rather, they descend as in free fall? The explanation is most commonly referred to as gravity, but the reality is that the density of space-time underwent a transformation. Planets that are massed float on space-time at the outer space, while masses on Earth free fall. If we were to exchange the nature of space-time in the outer space with the nature of space-time on Earth, this implies that planets will not float, but rather will begin to descend at an acceleration of 10 meters per second square. On the other hand, objects on Earth will remain suspended and will not fall. This explanation reveals a secret which concludes that the constant g and the acceleration due to gravity, small g, are essentially the same. This explanation was not disclosed by Newton or Einstein. Acceleration is the actual representation of the gravitational constant g. We have been hearing about the gravitational constant g as a value, but no one has ever known what this constant represents. It was all a fabrication from the physics community. Certainly it represents gravity. However, the inquiry is, how does this constant represent gravity? By default, space-time is characterized by a thickness. However, the term thickness may be substituted with density. Planets will float in outer space and will not descend significantly due to the default space-time thickness. Therefore, the default acceleration is indicated by the gravitational constant g in connection with this default space-time nature. The gravitational constant is equal to 6.66666666667 times 10 to the power of minus 11. This unit of this value is supposed to be in meters per second squared. Prince Jessii provided a proof of g as an acceleration in his recent paper. The theory that explains this entire video is titled Ultimate Gravity. Please read it, download it for free, and share it with your friends. Let us continue. Besides Newton's force of gravity and Einstein's curvature of space-time, there was another way to describe gravity. Newton asserted that gravity is a force, while Einstein posited that it is a curvature of space-time. Newton's description is simply an incorrect selection of words. Einstein is correct regarding curvature. However, this is due to the impact of a larger mass on a smaller mass. Nevertheless, Prince Jessii provided a new explanation for gravity that explains the origin of the explanations provided by Newton and Einstein. This new description of gravity is that gravity is simply the significance of the density, thickness of space-time. The default thickness of space-time will be reduced to a lesser version if a mass suddenly appears to apply pressure on this default spacetime, causing it to stretch. The thickness is reduced as the mass increases. With a mass like planets on this default spacetime, the thickness inside them will reduce drastically. Now, if this default spacetime thickness can hold planets and prevent them from falling but can make them float, imagine what a very less thickness would do to masses. This is the reason why there is free fall present inside planets. Gravity is responsible for reconstructing the nature of spacetime inside a planet as it applies pressure, thereby causing objects to free fall inside. Gravity is so deep an explanation and needs to be explained alongside spacetime, otherwise we get the description incorrect. This default spacetime thickness exists with zero descending acceleration as 0g. So, the simple explanation is that if small g represents acceleration due to gravity for planets, big G is the acceleration due to gravity for the outer space, or we can say acceleration due to gravity for the universe. Hence the formula 1 over s equals g. We can't get the full description of gravity without spacetime. It's straightforward. The default spacetime thickness, which is present at the outer space, exists with 0g, meaning zero downward acceleration, precisely the constant g in meter per second square. And this is the reason why planets float and don't drop at the outer space. If a mass is in free fall, can it create a curvature on spacetime? The answer is no. Hence, because planets float and don't descend, they are now able to create curvatures on this default thickness, thereby affecting smaller planets. Gravity as a curvature of spacetime is just a minor description for gravity. Rather, the main description of gravity is: gravity is simply the significance of the density of spacetime, thickness of spacetime. It's time for calculations. This new description of gravity opens an entire new window of gravity for us to comprehend better. The gravity subject equation of Jessii is proposed as G equals m over c squared r. This equation is predicated on the fact that both Newton and Einstein failed to provide a comprehensive explanation of the history of planets. The explanation for the loophole is that if Newton's subject equation G equals gm over r squared is employed to determine the parameters of both a normal planet and a star, the query remains: why is the energy of a star not significant enough to be included in Newton's equation? Therefore, this implies that Newton's subject equation is incomplete. The equation G equals gm over r squared is not incorrect. Rather, gravity exists with a two-sided equation, with the second side emphasizing the fact that all normal planets once harbored energy, indicating that all planets that we observe today were once stars. In order to gain a more comprehensive understanding, it is crucial to note that the appearance of planets was not as they are currently. They appeared exactly like the stars at the time of their formation. From Prince Jessii, the speed of light was identified as a significant entity when describing gravity. This is the reason why gravity will have two subject equations. One side will be Newton's subject equation, and the other side will be Jessii's subject equation. Have you ever considered the reason why, in practice, we are aware of the number of hours and days it takes for our planet to complete one full rotation and to revolve around the Sun, but we are unable to calculate these details theoretically using the well-established gravitational theory, such as Newton's theory? It is straightforward. The physics community's refusal to recognize the basic fact that planets solidified through a process. There was a reason for the presence of lava, and the eruptive activity of volcanoes was neglected as a proof. This validates the notion that our planet was once extremely hot and cooled over time. In this episode, which deception are we revealing? The physics community has chosen to acknowledge a number of alternative theories regarding gravity, all of which are incorrect, except Newton's equations and Einstein's curvature description. However, they have neglected the straightforward fact that gravity and the solidification of planets are intrinsically linked. Currently, you are about to witness an immediate and profound advancement in the field of physics. Prince Jessii's concept was that the electron could serve as the particle for physics unification, allowing us to obtain the values of an electron through calculations directly from the physical constants at the microscale, without the need for experimentation. This would subsequently result in a photon value. On the other hand, if Earth is the selected planet at the macroscale, the values for Earth could be obtained through calculations, without the need for observations or NASA values, but directly from the physical constants. This would establish Earth as the planet for physics unification, which would subsequently result in the values for the Sun. Perhaps we ought to investigate with it. This move by Prince Jessii was to establish a connection between his subject equation and Newton's subject equation, which resulted in the discovery that 1/c squared from his equation is equivalent to g/r from Newton's equation. Cross-multiplying, we obtain Jessii's follow-up equation, which is r equals gc squared. This demonstrates that the radius of a planet is directly determined by two physical constants. However, what planet is this? We will need to determine the answer through calculations, which will involve the same precise values for the physical constants as those that were presented in Episode 3. Inserting both g and c values yields a planet's radius as 6 × 10 to the power 6. From the derivation, Prince Jessii obtained his third gravity equation as follows. G is equivalent to the square root of 2c divided by r. Once more, we incorporate the precise value of the speed of light into the radius value that we obtained. The result is a 10 meter per second square acceleration due to gravity for this planet. Nevertheless, it is evident to see that this planet is Earth. Now that we have the radius and acceleration due to gravity of this planet, we can utilize the two-sided subject equations to verify its mass. From the derivation, Prince Jessii disclosed his fourth equation, which involves the mass, as m equals ggc to the power of 4. This equation yields the same outcome. Earth is the suspected planet that possesses these values. However, in order to ensure clarification, we will compare them to NASA's values. In comparison to NASA, it is evident that this planet is indeed Earth, as it is directly derived from the physical constants. However, there is still more to be demonstrated, and it is also revealed that NASA's values are entirely false. Prince Jessii also disclosed that the fine structure constant is a contributing factor to the gravity narrative. This physical constant, which is denoted by the term fine structure, governs the absorption of a photon by an electron. Consequently, the photon is destroyed, and the electron moves to a higher state. The formation and solidification of planets are a result of this explanation. Absorption is required as a result of energy solidifying into matter, which is still containing energy. This is where the fine structure constant is employed. Currently, we are unable to observe Earth's energy reserves, which implies that the photons, which are energy in quantum, have been completely annihilated by absorption. Please bear in mind that the universe was initially composed entirely of stars, not planets. The planets that we observe today were once stars, but some of them transformed into planets, while others remained unchanged. Currently, the inquiry is as follows. Why did certain stars undergo absorption over time, resulting in the formation of planets, while others did not? The reason for the existence of planets that orbit and revolve around a star is due to the genuine nature of gravity. According to Prince Jessii theory, the curvature that occurs as a result of gravity is the reason why planets no longer resemble stars. He identified that the energy stored within these stars would persist until this day in the absence of their perpetual rotation and revolution. The energy of the Sun remains. This is because it is not influenced by curvature and does not revolve around a larger body. However, this is not the case for other planets that rotate around the Sun. Therefore, the constant rotation and revolution were the reason for the energy disappearance of planets. So, to explain in detail, this is Earth at the point of creation, with the resemblance of a star. This is Earth trying to solidify with the energy disappearing gradually due to constant rotation and revolution. This is Earth at some point. And this is Earth after complete cooling. Again, before and after. Hence, this will be the reason why there should be a fine structure constant and the speed of light constant present in an equation for rotation and revolution of a planet. The derivations were conducted by Prince Jessii, who subsequently generated two equations for rotation and revolution with the formula alpha g square r square over the speed of light. The purpose of this rotation is aid cooling of the energy of a planet internally. The precise time required for this planet to complete a full rotation is 86,400 seconds, which is equivalent to 24 hours as calculated, which you see. This information is obtained by inputting values. Fortunately, this 24 hours is the same as what we observe. Revolution is a method for external cooling of energy. Jessi's proposed formula is alpha square g to the power of 5 times r. From this calculation, the exact time it takes for the Earth to revolve around the Sun is 31,104,000 seconds, which is equivalent to 360 days when values are inserted. Now, it is evident that NASA's claim of 365 days is inaccurate. There is a 5-day error, but the harm has already been done by them. Currently, the values of the Sun are not directly a factor in the formulas for rotation and revolution. However, the fine structure constant indirectly indicates the Sun's presence. If there is no absorption of energy, there is no fine structure in the absence of the Sun's curvature, which causes the Earth to revolve around it. Therefore, the fine structure constant indirectly represents the Sun's influence. However, Prince Jessii also disclosed an alternative method that will yield the same results. Following the precise values for the Sun obtained from the Earth's connection to the Sun, which were derived from reserved formulations in his paper, God's Eye, Physics of the Universe. He devised a formula to determine the exact distance between the Earth and the Sun, as illustrated. He then proved the Earth's rotation and revolution value through Newton's equations for two bodies. We can calculate the force of attraction between the Sun and the Earth by incorporating the distance between them into Newton's equations. His final gravity formula elucidates that the gravitational effect, which Newton referred to as the force of attraction, is mediated by curvature g. This is the reason why the Earth will revolve around the Sun while rotating or spinning. Consequently, he proposed the following formula, where c is the speed of light, r is the radius of the Earth, t-rot is the rotation time of the Earth, g represents curvature, F is the force of attraction, alpha is the fine structure, and GE Sun represents the complete description of the Sun's influence as G equals GM over R square. By inputting values, we obtain an exact 360-day revolution time for the Earth. It is imperative that we recognize and accept the existence of errors when conducting a practical experiment or observation. But without accurate calculations, and with Earth as the special one, if we are to guess the number of days it takes Earth to revolve around the Sun, the obvious guess would be 360 days because we all know through elementary mathematics that a complete revolution is 360 degrees. So, what happened to 360 days? The advancement of physics was exclusively restricted by the presence of errors and lies. Until recently, errors prevailed over the most powerful instrument of physics, which are the physical constants, due to the fact that the physics community permitted it, which significantly impeded progress. In mathematics, we always say that a complete revolution is 360 degrees, but no one, even NASA, could suspect that Earth's revolution period would be exactly 360 days, rather than the 365 which contains errors. However, it has been concluded. As you can see, the precise pi value is essential for understanding that the numbers that compose the pi values will direct us to the origin of prime numbers. These same numbers will also provide the pi codes, which will disclose the exact and true value of the physical constants through a God equation. Additionally, we would be unaware that the values of planet Earth are directly correlated with the physical constants in the absence of their precise values. We also acquired an understanding of the accurate definition of pi, which is represented by a full circumference and the shapes of the natural matter that exists in the universe, including electrons, photons, planets, trees, fruits, seeds, eggs, and so forth. The 16th Greek letter was selected to represent pi because it is a symbolic teaching that the radius of a circle is precisely 16% of the circumference. Again, falsehood upon falsehood prevented the truth. And with the completion of these 4 episodes, there has been some automatic advancement in the field of physics. Prince Jessii's theory of ultimate relativity encompasses all of these. Please download and read. Prince Jessii's scientific publications can be downloaded from the link provided below to learn more about his discoveries, or by conducting a straightforward search on Google. Kindly share with your friends. Like, comment, and share. For additional videos, subscribe and view the subsequent episodes to uncover additional deceptions. Thank you for watching.